From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
From the Tuned In Broadcasting Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, this is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz. My name is David Hooper, and with me today, Alissa Moreno. As an independent artist, she's sold over 10,000 records. Her music has been featured in The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, and Will and Grace. Alissa, welcome to Music Business Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me, David.
We got to be real clear about this. You are not the one who was alongside Tony Danza and Who's the Boss.
That's correct.
That's Alissa Moreno. So I'm going to throw that out there, and in case I mistake your name, my apologies. Alissa Moreno. And you're based out of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm, I am, Hollywood.
Talk about how you got started in the business.
Well, in the business, I guess I would say kind of started for me when I moved out there 6 years ago, but it was something that was a much longer time coming. I started with the violin when I was 2, so I would have to say my first recital. Could it be, would that count? I don't know.
Talk about your grandfather, because this is pretty interesting to me. He was living in Hawaii, and he's a pretty famous writer himself.
I don't know how famous he was.
Well, he wrote with some famous people, Mel Torme.
Yeah, Matt Dennis. His big thing was that it was him or another drummer that was going to be on the Benny Goodman show. He couldn't read tablature, and he lost the gig. And that was kind of the thing from there on out. It's like, you've got to know how to read music, which I did learn 15 years earlier, but I didn't tell him. I just let him know, like, yes, okay, I will.
Yeah, you were like, duh. Of course you have to.
Because, grandpas want to have a say and be a part of your development.
Well, not only are you an artist yourself, and you've sold 10,000 records on your own, which I find just amazing. If anybody's ever seen 10,000 records in one place, that's a lot of records.
Yeah.
But you're a songwriter as well. How did that start happening?
It's cool because the way that it worked was that I was always a singer from about age 10 on. So I do rock bands and musicals, and I was always a writer. I loved essays and poetry, and I loved keeping a journal. And I loved theatrics. I did a lot of stage, and it just didn't occur to me, I also played piano, that you could put all those together into one art form until I heard Tori Amos, actually. I think it was 1994. And someone played me. They said, it's funny. I had a song I was performing then for my little local cable, my own little video. And they said, this reminds me of this girl. It's funny, she's a redhead too. And you ought to hear her. And that changed everything. It was Under the Pink was the record. And I went back then and got Little Earthquakes and really started following her, thinking, so you could do all these things together, put every element into one and have a career like that? Cool. So you wanted to be an artist? Yeah. And you are an artist? Yeah. Talk about the process of moving to Los Angeles. I want to know exactly how you got from where you were. You grew up on an Indian reservation, which is kind of interesting. Spent some time in Hawaii. And when did you just decide just to kind of pull the trigger on it and really make it for real? It was actually when I was living in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii straight after school to be a waitress, which was like, why'd I go to music school? And I was lucky enough that I sort of stumbled into music out there. I was doing theater and teaching, performing all around, but I thought, it's not a great place to tour. It's the worst place to tour. I mean, kind of geographically landlocked. Yeah. And it's probably not the best time in my life to be totally content. I was, a teenager, or just at the end of my teens, and thinking, gosh, if this is it, that's fantastic, but that's probably not, I should kick it up a notch. And I went back to Santa Fe, where I had gone to school, made a demo, took it out to L.A. How long did it take for you being in L.A. before things really took off? It's kind of a cool story because the first night I pulled into town, I guess it would be the second day, actually. I went to a music store called McCabe's, and I said, where do I go? How do I do music? They said, you should go to this bar. It's called the Temple Bar. Some of our guys are playing there tonight. You can meet other musicians. And I was sitting alone, and this woman and her husband said, gosh, we feel so bad for you. You should come sit with us. You shouldn't be alone in a bar. Right. That's how chicks end up in porn in L.A. Yeah, thankfully this went totally the other way. Right. The woman said, my husband's in music. You should give him a CD, which I had in my car because I was living in it. It was as big as a station wagon, so don't feel bad. And I gave them my CD, and I never heard from him again. I think 6 months passed, when I got a phone call from him saying, "Hey, Alissa, this is John Swihart. I'm sorry it took me so long. I've been sort of getting my music for film company up and running, and I have a film that I would love for you to work on with me." That one never went anywhere, but I think 2 projects later was Napoleon Dynamite, which at the time we didn't think was, I shouldn't say this, but we didn't think it was any good.
Right. We'll talk about the story, because in the end, you actually were not the voice in
I know.
So tell people exactly how this works and what the process with that was.
It's actually really great. To see the movie without music, I had never really been involved in a film as a musician before, and well, that's not true, but not a big one, and not a feature length. To see, like, how much music has to do with the comedic timing.
Oh, yeah, it really sets the mood.
Yeah. So we thought, like, here's another independent project, who knows, you know, and there's this scene there in the Happy Hands Club, I don't know if you remember that, and The Rose is playing, which happened to be one of my favorite songs growing up, and I sang it and went to festivals, and it was great, but the directors thought, you know, that voice, it's too cool. It's too cool and kind of recognizable. We need something more dorky, honestly.
Right. And you couldn't have toned it down.
I would like to think I could, but maybe I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, that coolness just came through. Well, you got a great voice, and this is kind of another interesting LA story we should probably get to. Ben Affleck, you were Ben Affleck's vocal coach. How did that come about?
That was a phone call. I used to teach music. That was sort of my living after waitressing, before songwriting professionally. He needed someone to coach him. He had to sing 2 songs in his film. He was portraying George Reeves, the original Superman. And the funny part was they were in Spanish, so it was extra. Fortunately, that's what my dad speaks, and I had enough understanding that we worked together and ended up going to Toronto and being on location for a couple of months. I mean, there wasn't a lot of singing, so it was a lot more fun playing music, learning 80s covers, eating a lot of great food, and drinking a lot of great wine.
So who's easier to teach, Ben Affleck or your students before him?
I'm going to say Ben. He probably wins. He's actually a genius, and he wouldn't say it, but I mean, truly, I think certifiable in his family, their IQs are out of this world, so he picks things up, you know, in a moment.
So a pretty good singer.
Yeah, he was great.
And people can hear your work on...
Oh, Hollywoodland.
Hollywoodland.
Yeah, you should rent it.
Check it out. Alissa Moreno is my guest today. She is a singer, songwriter, artist out of Los Angeles. She sold 10,000 records on her own, and her music has been featured in The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, Will and Grace, also vocal coach to Ben Affleck. Talk about the difference between Los Angeles and Nashville. This is kind of interesting because, you know, you landed in L.A., did real well in the kind of film and TV music thing, but you spend a lot of time out here in Nashville, so much so you just told me you just bought a place out here. What's the difference? I mean, did you just, when you showed up to Nashville, go to a local record store and somebody told you where to go, or how did that work?
The first time I came here, I thought, I'll never fit in because I had just quit smoking. I had just quit drinking. Not to say that you have to smoke and drink to live in Nashville, but you know what I'm saying. It's very different out here.
Yeah, just a bunch of rednecks out here.
And I was thinking, oh God, they can still smoke in bars. What am I going to do? And the fun place where I find the most fun I have is like hanging out with people I work with after. And that's a luxury we just don't have in Los Angeles because it's so spread out.
Right.
So here I actually get to have relationships and friendships with almost every person I work with.
Do you not see that in Los Angeles? Is it more of a kind of a business thing?
Yeah, you just can't. And, you know, we'd all love to, but the reality is, like, if you want to meet for dinner, you have to plan 2 weeks in advance. You have to account for an hour and 45 minutes of unexpected traffic. And
right. You can't do it during rush hour.
Yeah.
Got to find a parking space.
Here, I can call my publisher, the guy I wrote with this day, and 2 friends at 3 o'clock and say, I want to cook some Indian food. Do you guys want to come over? And they're like, yeah, we can be there at 6.
Yeah, we're not doing anything. Just smoking and drinking later on tonight. So give me the high and low points of both cities. High and low point of Los Angeles.
Okay, high point of Los Angeles. Do you mean for me or do you mean the city?
Well, for you.
I guess the most exciting thing, the sort of start of it all, was my first theme song. That was like a huge thing, and I was out there struggling and starving, and I got a call. Again, it was because of my partner, John Swihart, who I met in a bar. This is why drinking and smoking is okay. So I'm not opposed to it. We got a call from Kelly Ripa, was doing a new show. It was called Hope and Faith, and it was going to be this huge thing, ABC, you know, prime time, and they said, we want you to write this song for it. And it went back and forth, and it was a half of a year with me going all around town and hearing from other producers that they got the song, and, you know, just kind of never ending. And at 5 minutes to 5 on a Friday night, the Screen Actors Guild called me and said, we got to Taft-Hartley you because you're going to be airing on the show tonight. I mean, it was literally, and we're sending a messenger over, and can you sign the papers? It was crazy. It was like rags to riches.
Well, so it's a very last-minute thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and low point for Los Angeles.
I'm going to go with...
I mean, it sounds like you just showed up, went to a bar, and just all of a sudden took off. But I'm sure it wasn't that easy, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. It started like on a futon with unidentifiable stains in my old high school friend's bachelor apartment. You know, it was like him and a couple guys, and I had to sleep on their gross futon and had all my stuff in boxes and my cat and my keyboard in the room where I was sleeping, where there was no privacy. And, you know, it's not the most fun I've ever had, but that's a pretty good low, on the other hand.
Well, what about Nashville? Was Nashville easier or just different? It
was a little easier. I remember coming here, though, back to that first story, and kind of being like, oh, can I have a piece of chicken and some water, you know, with lemon? And I remember the waitress going, like, what do you mean? Fried chicken? Or, you know, I was sort of used to LA, and everyone there has food restrictions and allergies, and they're really a little new agey, dare I say. Here it's a lot more down home and real. And she was like, no, you can't.
Yeah,
like,
deep fried.
No, get it yourself, you know? I thought,
so sort of a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
What's your high point in Nashville been so far?
I'm going to say the song that I just had released by Rascal Flatts earning its Grammy nomination this week.
Plus, it sold a lot of copies, too, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it was cool.
And low point?
I can't really say there was much low here. I love it here.
You were already pretty established by the time you got here to Nashville.
I guess it makes sense, right? I'm from the Southwest, so this is that southern element of me, and the more cowgirl part of me, and the more like people really actually knowing people and caring about people. And I'm not putting LA down. We care, and there are great people out there. But I'm just saying, in general, this is a really family-based. We really have deep morals and spiritual and religious, and human spirit is really profound here and shining. I'm very comfortable and happy here.
Well, the song that you've had cut by Rascal Flatts, Every Day, you did something really exciting for us. You've brought us the demo that actually got you the cut. So we've got that, we've got their version, and you've got a guitar with you, because this is Nashville, Tennessee Guitar Town. When we come back from the break, I'm going to make you pick that up and play something for us. Got a song called The Softer Side that I'm going to make you play. Alissa Moreno is my guest today. She's an artist. She sold 10,000 records on her own. She's a writer. You heard her music in The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, and Will and Grace, among others. Music Business Radio is on the air. I'm David Hooper, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Hey, this is Tess Rogers. I'm an intern for Best Built Songs this summer, and I've learned more listening to Music Business Radio than I have in 4 years of college.
Music Business Radio, on the web at musicbusinessradio.com. 100.1.
Lightning 100.
Some things just never grow old, like the timeless music at Music City Roots and a warm bowl of all-natural Vietti chili. For over 100 years in Nashville, Vietti has been a hometown brand, and you can find your own true taste, whether it's chili with beans or without beans, chili mac, or even spicy Louisiana hot sauce chili. You'll experience the taste that has been uniquely Nashville since 1898. I'm Allie Sutton, reminding you to pull the tab and feel the love. Check us out at ViettiChili.com.
Hi, this is Buzz Casey, and you're listening to Music Business Radio. And I'm the guy who co-wrote the song that got played 6 million times on radio. And in the true hillbilly fashion, I spent it all.
Welcome back to Music Business Radio.
Welcome back to Music Business Radio. I'm David Hooper, your host. And with me today, Alissa Moreno. She's a singer-songwriter based out of Los Angeles and also Nashville. She sold over 10,000 records on her own, and you've heard her music on The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, and Will and Grace. Alissa, you've got a guitar with you, because this is Guitar Town. We're going to make you play it. But before we get into this, as a songwriter, I want to know, because you do a lot of work in Los Angeles, you play piano. So do you find that you play guitar more here in Nashville, or what is the writing process?
Definitely.
What's the difference in the writing process?
It's funny because I come out here and everyone's going, yay, okay, a piano player, but all I want to do is play guitar, because of course, you know, we all have our sort of thing, and mine is piano, and that leads to a lot of ballads, which we can only write so many of before your publisher's like, oh, please, do you have anything else in there?
Or Crocodile Rock, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. And that's actually, I'm so grateful. I just want to say this to Coldplay and The Fray. Another one was Keen for bringing piano back in that cool alt-rock way, alt-pop way.
Ben Folds.
Yeah, totally. That's right. Thank God, because I was starting to get a little worried. What? I'm not Kate Bush. What am I going to do?
We'll talk about the writing appointments in Los Angeles. Do you sit down in a room with the piano? Is it how different is it than what you do out here in Nashville?
It's a little different because there are a lot of track guys out there, and the pop and top 40 world is really based on an in the feel. So if you are able to capture something as cool as there's not a lot of thought of sort of sitting around and going what do we want to write today, and what do we want to talk about, and how do we want to sort of heal ourselves or whatever is going on that would happen for me a lot more in Nashville. It's more here's a track, I got this great beat, I don't even know what the sound is, it's like a backwards theremin, and what can you do to it? Right. So it is different.
Well, it sounds a lot like what you were talking about before the break, which is kind of the cultural differences of the two cities. Nashville, you said, is more relationship-oriented. They want to get to know you.
Yeah.
Bring the kids and the wife over. Yeah. Let's meet her. L.A. is more of a, hey, we got a place to drive to, so let's get this thing done.
Yeah, that's true. And on the other hand, some of my best friends are producers and writers that... Especially because there is a thing where there seems to be, and I think this is self-imposed pressure, but here there's this kind of thing oh my God, we met, we better write and finish a song today. Mm-hmm. Whereas there it's 3, 4, 5 trips because everyone's taking calls and double booked. And so in a way, I kind of get to know those co-writers better because it takes us a long time to finish.
Well, speaking of self-imposed pressure, I'm going to put a little bit on you here and make you play something for us. Tell me about the song you're going to play.
This song, actually, I wrote with a guy out of Canada. His name's Togs, and he's done a lot of the Josh Groban stuff. He's a great producer and great songwriter, and we had a couple of hours, and I was in the middle of a very long run, and I was very tired, and I wanted to cancel, but he had flown in, and we were meeting at Sony that day, and I just kind of thought, I hate this, but I'll go. And I'm so glad I did, because in 45 minutes, we had this, which is now my favorite, and God willing, I don't know if I want to jinx it, but this incredible artist who can really sing and really sell records is living with it at the moment. And that's always cool when the artist wants to live with something and it's not the producer trying to push it on them, when they're oh, cool, let me wrap my mind around it and see if I really can do it. I feel oh.
Yeah, it comes off a lot more authentic and it shows that they really want it. Well, give it to us.
Okay. Falling when there's nothing to believe. Catch you, I will hold you. Ask for something that you need. Bring you
Alissa Moreno on Music Business Radio. That was great.
Thank you.
And 45 minutes it took you to do that?
Yeah. God, it was one of those cool things, too, where I remember Toggs is this incredible melody guy. There's this very, like, Celtic kind of Irish thing that goes on with him, and he's sort of fiddling around with, like, I'm going to go smoke. I'll be right back. Like, ugh. All of a sudden, I'm like, I got it, you know? And we sat around and sculpted it for a few minutes, and we're like, I love you too, okay. It's nice to meet you, see you. It was just great. It was one of those moments where I don't feel like I did any work and he didn't do any work. It was sort of inspired.
It just happened.
Yeah.
How often does it happen that quickly?
It's rare. I wish it happened all the time, and then it'd be really, I guess it wouldn't be special, but those are so magical. It's like you're not even in the room.
Well, it's like a Ouija board, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Where do songs come from, you think?
I would dare say God, the ether, however you look at it, the universe, like it's a radio station that is there. And whether or not I'm tuning into Lightning 100 or whatever it is, it's on. And so if I'm open and I'm turning on the radio and I'm dialing, then I'm lucky and I'll catch it. And that's why I've noticed that happens where artists will write the same thing at the same time, or movies will come out about the same person or the same story. It's like who tapped in and then who ran with the ball quickly enough. That's
right.
Kind of the...
Absolutely. And what do you think that trick to being open is?
Whew.
Or is there a trick?
Well, my original answer would have been LSD or alcohol or... that's terrible. Should I say that on radio?
Well, sure, because that's a lot of people's answer.
Yeah.
But you said that's your original answer, so I'm thinking you've probably retracted that statement.
I have. And, there's two things. Like, one, I sort of always looked up to those guys that were, like, dying of heroin and doing brilliant things like Kurt Cobain did and Elliott Smith did, and... I realized, you know what? They're not happy and they're dead. So maybe that's not the right people to look at. Maybe that's a place to get to, and maybe an easy way that could be relatively inexpensive or doable. It would be drugs and alcohol. It can kind of like shut down parts of the brain that are going, oh, no, you're not good enough and you're not this. And maybe there are other ways. And I got really open to other ways after I found life wasn't very good high all the time. And
okay, such as?
I would say meditation was the biggest one for me. Yep.
So kind of quieting the mind so you can actually listen to that radio station in the sky.
Exactly. And like getting to have one's own relationship with a greater power is the coolest thing I've experienced, and I just think that's all in there, love and art and beauty, and I just don't think I knew how to be quiet before and find that stuff. And now that I do, it's like all I want to do. It's the best job in the world.
And you've definitely had success. That song you just played, The Softer Side, it's on hold. Mm-hmm. And for our listeners, explain what that means.
In some situations, you'll pitch it to A&R or to the producer of the record, and we were just lucky enough that my co-writer has a relationship with the artist and has had success with him before, so we bypassed everyone and sent it straight to him, and he loved it. And, here's hoping that his producer and A&R department feel the same way, because everyone's involved in, like, what's going to make a good record and what does this artist want to say, and like who are they going to be in the public eye. And it just seemed right. On the other hand, I love the song so much that I'm going, okay, if he doesn't do it, can I have it for my next record?
That's right.
Which is the bonus about being an artist/writer, is that nothing goes to waste, because
first dibs.
Yeah.
Talk about getting songs cut. Do you usually go directly to the artist? I mean, it sounds like that's a great option if you can get in. Yeah, I know. I wish I knew all the artists that I love, but I typically go to, and here it's easier as well, to take meetings with A&R. Again, it's like every label is on the same street. You can walk. In LA, it's really, you got to plan your whole day around trying to get to one place, because I live pretty centrally right in Hollywood, and it's like, none of the labels are there. You got to go to the West Side, you got to go to Sherman Oaks, you got to, and here I'm in town for a week. Does everyone want to hear what I'm doing? And you can go, and you start to have friendships with these people, and they really get their artists, and they get you, the writer, and say like, yeah, bring some stuff. It's much easier. One of the things that differentiates Nashville and Los Angeles is the huge film and television community that you've got out there. And you've had a lot of success with film and television. We mentioned some of the shows earlier. I mean, you've been on The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, Will and Grace, and that's just, a few of the dozens and dozens of shows that you've done. I want to talk a little bit more about that, about actually pitching film and television as compared to pitching artists with songs. Got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more from Alissa Moreno on Music Business Radio.
This is Dan Reed from WXPN in Philadelphia. I am a Music Business Radio podcast groupie. I listen to it every week, and so should you.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
In the mood to try something new? How about Nashville's brand new American Bistro, Feast? Conveniently located at the edge of East Nashville, just minutes from downtown, Feast is open daily and offers a variety of fresh twists on classic American dishes. Feast offers free parking in the garage below 5th and Main condos and makes a perfect lunch, dinner, or happy hour destination. To get the full scoop on hours, menus, and upcoming specials, visit feastonfifth.com. Feast, where downtown meets East.
Hey guys, this is Dave Barnes. My life was crazy. I couldn't figure anything out. I'd play shows and nobody would show up. I'd forget my guitar sometimes, but then I started listening to Music Business Radio and everything changed. Thanks, guys.
This is Music Business Radio. I'm your host, David Hooper. With me, Alissa Moreno. She sold 10,000 records on her own, thanks in part to having music on The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, Will and Grace. That's really helped fuel album sales for you.
Gosh. Especially Laguna Beach. I mean, I don't know if you remember back then, it was so huge. And I was lucky enough to be on the soundtrack, which was rare for an independent artist, and really helped drive sales and get my name out there. And
well, you said earlier, talking about Napoleon Dynamite, you know, how music really sets the mood. Mm-hmm. And I think seeing the visual of like two people kissing or two people fighting or a certain emotional scene tied into that music really makes people want to purchase that music. Yeah. It's like capturing that moment.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. This is fascinating to me. That's a big part of how you've sold all these records, is people, I guess, will look up the songs on the internet after seeing the show. They'll want to take a little piece of it home, and they'll purchase yours.
Yeah, and it's so easy now because I think music supervisors and television producers are really aware of how pertinent their role is, and they are creating whole pages. These are all the songs from this episode of this show that you like. Click here to find this artist. Buy direct from our site here at MTV. You know, all that kind of stuff. Where it used to be you had to call, you had to get a hold of the DJ, you had to remember the song and kind of sing it to them. Now you can remember two lyrics,
right.
and then I called, and Google it, and then it's right there, you know.
Right. It really is. It really is a lot easier. And it's probably a lot easier to get your stuff in film and television since there's so much of it now. It's not like the big three networks anymore.
Right.
We've got, you know, broadcast cable, then premium cable, then we've got some kind of 400 satellite stations that all need music.
Yeah.
Talk about the pitch. How do you get in film and television?
For me, that really has been relationships, because I think there's a certain thing to be said about my style, which I am really conscious in my approach to songwriting, and that is that I've been through a lot of experiences, and I could get really detailed about them as an artist and be really intimate and relatable to a very particular fan base and a very few people. Mm-hmm. Or I can take those experiences and get a little more universal with them so that I don't have to get so detailed, because everyone has suffered dramatically in this world.
Right.
I really hardly know anyone that has just had a smooth, easy sailing life. And when I don't get so detailed and I leave things really personal but really accessible, that's like, okay, every show in the world is art imitates life, so perfect. We need this, we need this, we need this. And they sort of lend themselves to placements like that. But it has been knowing and meeting people that work on the show. I think my first placement ever was because one of the stars of Wonderfalls, which was this great show on Fox, was in my Pilates class. And he heard that I was a songwriter and said, well, bring me your CD. And I did. And then he passed it to the producer, who passed it to the Music Soup.
So it's kind of like going to the artist, but you go into the frontline people here. That sounds like the method that's worked for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and also knowing the music supervisors personally, because then they know what you're like and they're open to pitches.
Talk about the process. Do music supervisors call you now that you have a relationship with them?
Yeah, definitely.
They say, hey, we've got this great scene. It's really What words do they use when they describe a scene?
Sometimes they'll actually call me in to watch. That really, really helps because you can sort of write to tape. Other times there will be pitches that will say, we had a temp in here and it was this fun song by Sheryl Crow. And then I have an idea because I know her stuff and I know like, oh, okay, that might be what they're looking for and I can write particularly to that. Or the really great one that happens for me a lot is they hear the song and they say, I have something perfect.
Yeah, it's already done.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, what advice do you have for somebody listening who wants to get into film and television placement?
Find one music supervisor and befriend them instead of like cold sending to 400 music soups because they are so inundated with records. It's scary when I go into the offices of any of these people.
But isn't it amazing how those are the guys that know like every record ever made?
Yeah, that's
they
right.
They can say, oh, you know what would be perfect for this scene? They'll go way to the back catalog.
Yeah.
Track number 7.
Yeah.
So just getting one of those guys.
Yeah, I really find that. I have relationships with a very few, and I rely on them. That's my livelihood almost. And I really know them, and I really know what they want, and I really show up for them to the point that they'll send directors to my house, and I'll rewrite for some movie of the week. It's like
giving them exactly what they need so they don't have to like squeeze it in there.
Yeah.
I imagine deadline is probably pretty important too.
Huge. And TV, it's always like, oh, okay, it's airing in 7 minutes. Did you write it yet? And we don't have a contract. It's like, I had a guy call me once from MTV. The show had already aired and they didn't have permission. And Kelly Clarkson's people freaked out and they needed a new song for the rerun. I was thinking like, you guys, it already aired. It's last minute.
Yeah, or past.
Yeah, or past.
David Hooper here, Music Business Radio, and Alissa Moreno is my guest today. We're talking about film and television music supervision. She's been on The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, Will and Grace. What else, Alissa?
I've gotten way into soap opera land because they do
General
montages.
Hospital.
Yeah, General Hospital was the first. The really coolest for me the other day was Days of Our Lives because I grew up watching that with my grandma. So I actually knew. I'm like, so Bo and Hope, what happened? But they'll do a whole sort of summer wrap-up and use the whole song, which is really fun.
Let's talk about that because the longer segment of the song they use, the more you make.
Yeah.
You mentioned doing a theme song. Theme songs are a pretty sweet deal. Closing credits, also very nice. So talk about kind of the hierarchy of film and television music.
It does go. Theme is the best. The really cool thing about a theme song is they'll tend to use bumpers throughout. Are they called bumpers or bumps? Now I can't remember. Do you guys know?
We call them bumpers still.
Yeah.
Bumps is something else in L.A.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. One episode could really end up being lucrative. The second biggest thing is when you have, it's when you're the featured vocal, not the background vocal. So featured vocal would be like, for instance, the first Laguna Beach episode I ever had, they stopped talking when the music started playing. And then they ran 2 minutes and they ran to credits and through credits. So that's like, A, it's a long usage, and B, it's a featured vocal instead of a background. The third and most lucrative I've found is promo. It depends on who your PRO is, and that's a whole nother thing I might not get into, but when you are a promo, what they're doing is it's called a show ID. That's what I have for Army Wives. That means that you don't have to tune into Lifetime and tune into the show Army Wives to see the song. Just any radio station or network, they have spots like after Grey's Anatomy or before Regis and Kelly, where they'll show the commercial for the show and play the song. Movie theaters, like the Man's Theaters did it this summer, and that's fantastic, and depending on who your PRO is, those pay as well. That's really great because it's playing 10, 20 times a day.
Any recommendations for a good PRO to pick if you wanted to be paid?
Yeah, BMI.
Okay, so PRO, Performing Rights Organization, and performance rights, that's when it's performed, and you get money, like radio play, television is what we're talking about. Anytime it's performed. So, BMI?
All the way. I just love them. And I'm going to say ASCAP's wonderful too, but BMI has changed their model because of artists like me. They listen. I call and say, hey, I'm not getting paid. And, the head of BMI fought for me for a year and a half to find out, why don't we? And how can we and we changed it, and we're backlogging. Like, they're just very open to their artists
and you are a performing musician, but also a songwriter, and you're living and dying by those songs. The rent, the mortgage, that gets paid based on the money that you make, so you got to follow the money.
Yes.
So BMI is recommended. Well, Alissa, we've got a great section of the show here. It's called Dave's Demo Derby. And this is where bands from all around the world, songwriters, people just like you, send in demos and have people just like you today, the guest on Music Business Radio, listen to them and critique them. And we got something special coming up because you actually have a demo that you pitched to get this Rascal Flatts cut. So that's next when we come back with Alissa Moreno on Music Business Radio.
This is Alan Shacklock, record producer to Roger Daltrey, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Jeff Beck, Meatloaf, and Babe Ruth. And you're listening to Music Business Radio.
If you're thinking 2012 was one busy year, you aren't alone. But if you're still feeling tired and having a hard time getting motivated about the new year, you could be experiencing symptoms of fatigue. Lightning 100's Team Green Adventures, in partnership with Mind Body Medical Center, is offering an insightful wellness workshop on fighting fatigue, Wednesday, January 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. Dr. Stephen L. Reisman at Mind Body Medical Center will lead a group discussion on the common causes, health impact, and natural remedies for fatigue. After helping to pinpoint the common symptoms and lifestyle choices leading to fatigue, we'll cover a variety of natural remedies to help you overcome and possibly even prevent fatigue in your future. All are welcome for this free event. Mind Body Medical Center in Edge Hill is a general practice clinic with an emphasis on using the body's natural ability to heal itself. Mark your calendar for Wednesday, January 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. Learn more at teamgreenadventures.com.
Hi, this is Johnette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
This is Music Business Radio. I'm David Hooper, your host. With me today, Alissa Moreno, and now it's time for that part of the show we call Dave's Demo Derby. Alissa Moreno is my guest today. She's had her work on The Hills, Army Wives, Laguna Beach, Will and Grace. She's got a cut by Rascal Flatts called Every Day. And in between us, we've got a big bag of demos sent in from bands from around the world.
And now they're on the floor.
Alissa's playing with the demo. She can't wait to get started. We're going to listen to these and then critique them. What do you got in your hand there, Alissa?
I have Kirk McMillan, American Dream World.
We got a song Kirk sent us called Mind of America. It's Kirk McMillan on Music Business Radio.
Listen here, your eyes don't see. Still you walk and talk and dance and sing. Who is your master? Puppeteer. Why would you let somebody pull your strings? The strings are tangled, you can't get around. Think you would never take a shot on your own. Where is the mind of America? Where is the mind of America? You thinking?
Kirk McMillan out of Atlanta, Georgia on Music Business Radio. It's KirkMcMillan.com if you like it. Alissa, do you like it?
Well, I love it. I'm totally actually stuck in the packaging here because Kirk really took his time with this.
It's got like a digipack going on.
Yeah,
there.
It's beautiful with the high gloss and.
Kirk is green.
I love this. Lyric, let me find it. Who is your master, your puppeteer? Why would you let somebody pull your strings? Strings are tangled, can't get unwound. Think you never took a shot on your own. I was listening to that lyric and it made me jump back to the back here. Kirk has a thank you talking, to everyone about his inspiration and how music would ignite a personal revolution. And obviously it did for him because he's writing about something meaningful. That's what I really appreciate is when artists, and that's sort of what we were talking about earlier, really universal versus really intimate. This to me captures both. It's like everyone has their political, their religious, their ethical and moral stances, and Kirk's done it in a way that's not preachy and is not saying be this or join this party or sign up here, but it is saying, hey, think for yourself. And I just really appreciate that, Kirk. It's beautiful.
It's really great when an artist can do that, when a listener listens to the song and says, oh, that's about me. He wrote it about me. And 10,000 other people are saying the same thing and buying your record on iTunes. I mean, that's incredible when that happens.
Yeah.
Next up, Amy Obinsky. Clearly Today is the song. She's from Santa Cruz, California, kind of out near you. Amy Obinsky on Music Business Radio. Amy Obinsky on Music Business Radio. Clearly Today is a song. She's at amyobinsky.com. Alissa, how about it?
Beautiful. I was just reading her bio. You know, Amy had a song, Carousel, that was placed on the show Grey's Anatomy. And I was thinking, of course, that's, again, like what we were talking about earlier, is finding what music supervisor you would... Clearly, this is very Alex, this style, the music soup on that show, in case you didn't know. It's just so obvious. Like, I heard from the very beginning, I heard the intro and thought, oh God, please let this be what I think it's going to be, and it was, which sometimes doesn't happen. And so it's like, I get her, I'm reading her bio, it's talking about her being a piano, there's grand piano on it and cello, and then the voice came and it was what I thought, and it's a mood piece. And I wouldn't go pitch it to every music supervisor, and I hear Will Smith has a new blockbuster, let me send it to his music super too. Like,
not going to work for that.
Right. It's so obvious and niche, and she's there.
I was thinking advertising myself. She talked about cloudy. I was thinking it'd be a good commercial for cataracts. You know, or like a cataract, I can see clearly, you know.
Yeah, actually.
Or maybe alcohol, like if your life is in a funk and you need like alcohol rehab, this would be like a good...
depression. That's so true.
Totally.
Depression commercials. And that's such a good line. Something's in the way of me seeing clearly today, and that fog that surrounds my brain is getting thicker now, thicker every day. That should be on Grey's. She should call and see if she can get more on there.
You know, you've got a demo that you brought with you. Also has cello and piano, because we've been talking about you. You're a pianist.
Yes. So why I had to play guitar in here today, I'll never know.
What's Guitar Town? That's mandatory in Nashville.
Right.
You got to show up with a guitar. But you've got a demo, and it actually did very well for you. Give us a story.
That's a cool, how do I make it short story? The short version is that I'm also an actor, and I was going to do a film in L.A., Funny enough, it was John Grise was going to direct it. He was Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. I was going to play this songwriter girl, and the producers thought, what a great idea if we have a record for her come out at the same time. And I really had no relationship to Nashville at that time. And even though I'm from the Southwest, I don't know why I never put the two together. That was just not a style that I thought of myself as doing. But they flew me out here, and we cut the demo. My writing partner, Jeffrey Steele, heard my version and said, oh, gosh, girl, this is good. Can I cut it too? And pitch it around town, which I really didn't know anything about. So I said, sure. And luckily, he brought it into Dan. Dan Huff produces the Flats, and he heard it and got it, and Gary heard it and got it, and the band was on board. And later, talking to Joe Don, he's like, it was my greatest guitar moment. You know, like everyone had their thing, and the magic sort of happened, and it became their own.
Well, maybe that's a writing technique, too. Make sure everybody has their moment within your song, and they'll all be on board for it.
Yeah.
So talk about the demo.
My version is super sparse. It's in my genre, which is much more alt-pop. And the funny part is my whole goal was to not have a big chorus, which the irony is that's my thing. They're always pretty big, like, bam, we're at the chorus. And I wanted to hold back. And really, you'll hear in the demo, when we get to the first chorus, you might not even know. And of course, that's not great for pitching.
Yeah, they want the big chorus.
Right. But so cool for film and TV and what we were thinking contextually, it was right. And, now we're going to re-release my version, which does get to the chorus right away, and because we're going for radio. But yeah, it's fun for me to watch from my demo to Jeff's demo to the Flatts version to my newest version. It's like, wow, this is all the same song. It's got its own life each time.
Well, and here is the birth of the song. This is Every Day by Alissa Moreno.
You could have bowed out gracefully, but you didn't. You knew enough to know to leave her well enough alone, but you wouldn't. I drive myself crazy trying to stay out of my own way. The messes that I make, my secrets are so safe. You're the only one who gets me, you get me. It's amazing to me how every day you save my life. I come around all broken down, crowded out, no comfort. Sometimes the place I go is so deep and dark and desperate. I don't know how every sometimes I swear I don't know if I'm coming or going, but you always say something without even knowing. I hang on to all of your words with all of my might, and I'm alright, it's alright for another night. Every day, every day.
Every Day by Alissa Moreno here on Music Business Radio. That was the original, right, Alyssa?
Mm-hmm, it was.
And here is what it became. But before I get to that, give me the story on what do you think they changed? Did they do a good job with it?
Oh, they did an amazing job. And the first thing that they did that was jarring when I first heard it was they took out the 16th notes on my piano hook, which as an artist you kind of go like, hey, why are they
right.
So that it just became do-do-do-do-do-do, which again lends itself to like a big rock production. Mm-hmm. I know they cut all the strings in Los Angeles out at Capitol Records. They have this amazing studio and orchestra. It's like that bowed bass that comes in the beginning, it breaks my heart. And Gary let's be honest, I love my voice and I love to sing, but when I heard him, it was like, oh, shoot, I can't do that. He can tear it up. And it worked. Every time I want to cry, every time I hear it.
Well, here we go. I'm going to get out the Kleenex right now. This is the Grammy-nominated Alissa Moreno, Jeffrey Steele composition cut by Rascal Flatts on Music Business Radio.
You could have bowed down gracefully, but you didn't. To know to leave well enough alone, but you wouldn't. I drive myself crazy trying to stay out of my own way. The messes that I make, but my secrets are so safe. The only one who gets me, yeah. Sometimes the place I go is so deep and dark and desperate. I don't know how every day you save my life. Sometimes I swear I don't know if I'm coming or going, but you always say something without even knowing that I'm hanging on to your words with all of my might. And it's alright, yeah, I'm alright for one more night. Every
Every Day by Rascal Flatts. Got one of the co-writers here, Alissa Moreno. And, you know, Alyssa, I was just thinking, they did change up those notes, 16 notes to 8 notes, but you're not being paid by the note here.
That's right, so it's all
So,
okay.
yes, it's still got to sound pretty good to you. Let's get back to the demos. We got one more here for you. You know, it's always funny to me when I reach into the demo bucket and I pull one out that there's no way I can pronounce. And I've got one right here. So here's what I'm going to do. Alyssa, I'm handing this off to you. I want you to announce this next one for us.
Beautiful. Looks to me like this is Miley with a very unique and gorgeous spelling. Hope I'm saying it right, Miley.
So it's Myliye.
I love it. It sure reads lovely in this tree on this cover. I mean, the packaging's great. Brain Obeys the Heart, it's called, and the track is Broadway Lights.
Dropping in now. Don't spread yourself too thin now. You get so lost and don't know how to get out. Some sticky situations call for abbreviations, slang tongue-coded calculations, just to end up down in the middle of it all. Fall back in line, wind up down, like you never knew it all. And design these signs for everyone to see. You're bright like Broadway.
Miley on Music Business Radio. The song Broadway Lights. That kind of took me by surprise there.
Yeah, me too. I am like totally drawn in by this artwork too. So that's something I love is when a band, so I didn't know they were a male vocal band.
Yeah, I thought it was like a female solo artist.
Which is so cool because once again, like I'm totally drawn in. Is it Miley? I don't know. I want to know. Maybe they have some little thing on the website where whoever figures out how to pronounce their name gets a free CD. Like those are the kinds of marketing things that for me, you got to go any way you can with stuff. And then it's this trick where it's this cool guy band. And when you open the cover, this artwork's unbelievable. Someone drew this sort of just incredible willow or oak tree, I'm not sure what it is, with this guitar player underneath. It's like anime almost. It's incredible. And you know, what I found unique was that their title's Broadway Lights, but the hook wasn't. It was something about Bright Lights Broadway, which can be great and confusing. The only time it's hard is when you're playing at radio and people are calling in like, what's that song? And so that's when the parentheses come in so handy. Broadway Lights, parentheses.
Right.
Lights Broadway. You know, and God, hope the day that happens.
Well, you talked about people hearing them on TV and looking it up on the internet.
Yeah.
So it certainly makes purchase easier.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing now about the internet is you literally type in 3 lyrics in Google search. I mean, if you put it in quotes, you'll just about find everything. So it is a lot easier, actually. And I like that. I like when there's a little mystery. I'm a little stuck in the world of like, we got to know the hook. What's the hook? Name it the hook. You know, and when you get to have freedom as an artist in a band, it's cool.
Any final words of wisdom for upcoming songwriters and musicians?
Yeah. You know, what I would say is, and I'm not like a great homework doer, so it might not be the best thing for me to say, but I would say do your homework. Have a thought. And this is what I did. There are 800,000 music festivals and how to get in and classes and this and that and books, and have a thought like, okay, what's the book everyone's raving about? What's the radio program that everyone's raving about? What's the conference that everyone's talking about? And pick those. Pick one book. I read Don Passman, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. Pick one show. Who was just talking about how his whole career happened because he listened to Music Business Radio, right?
Well, he's one of them. We've got millions of guys like that.
Yeah. So listen to this show every week. I had the Durango Songwriters Expo. Changed my life. There are so many festivals and so many expos, but I heard good things from someone I trusted, and I went. And I continue to go every year now. Now I perform and teach there, but I went every year as an artist and a student. And again, know one TV show that you like. If you like Smallville, or you like Lipstick Jungle, or you like Grey's Anatomy, is a little rough these days because everyone likes it and they all want to get on. But, find something and hone in and really research and really know.
And go at it.
Yeah.
So find what you want, go at it. All right, Alissa, where can people get more information about you and also buy the record?
I think the best place is to go to AlissaMoreno.com. That's ALISSAMORENO.com.
It's Alissa Moreno, not Milano.
Not Who's the Boss.
Alissa Moreno. Alissa, appreciate you being here. Hope to have you back when you're here in Nashville again.
Thanks for having me, definitely.
Thank you for listening, and thank you especially to those who sent in demos for Dave's Demo Derby. For more information about Music Business Radio or to listen to past episodes, including some with music supervisor Anastasia Brown, Alissa's songwriting partner Jeffrey Steele, and also an advertising music executive Brad Kohlrich, visit us online at musicbusinessradio.com. I'll see you next week when I'll interview another industry guest.
Thank you for listening to Music Business Radio. Music Business Radio is a production of Lightning 100 Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Produced by Gary Crane, Dan Buckley, and David Hooper. Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill. Production coordination by Jesse Smith. And Lester tapped his foot and bobbed his head. Pro audio support provided today by DigiDesign with exclusive in-studio guitars courtesy of Waterstone Musical Instruments. For more information about Music Business Radio, visit musicbusinessradio.com. We are Music Business Radio, broadcasting from WRLT Studios at Marathon Village, Nashville, Tennessee.
Music Business